In the quiet moments before dawn breaks, when the world holds its breath between night and day, there exists a secret conversation happening all around us. Animals, with their ancient wisdom and heightened senses, whisper warnings we've only just begun to understand. Tonight, we'll drift together through the gentle mystery of how our fellow creatures sense the Earth's hidden tremors, the sky's subtle shifts, and nature's quiet alarms long before we ever notice. Before we begin this peaceful journey into the world of animal intuition, if you enjoy relaxing science stories like this one, feel free to subscribe, give this video a like, and comment below. Let me know what country you're watching from, and what time you're listening to this tonight. Your presence here, sharing these quiet moments of discovery, makes this gentle exploration all the more meaningful. Picture yourself now in a serene meadow at twilight, where fireflies begin their slow dance, and the air carries the soft fragrance of evening grass. The world around you is settling into its nighttime rhythm, and somewhere in this peaceful landscape, countless animals are quietly attuning themselves to signals we cannot perceive. Tonight, we'll learn their secrets, one gentle revelation at a time, as we drift together toward restful sleep. Imagine, if you will, that you could suddenly hear the Earth's heartbeat, not the metaphorical pulse of life, but the actual, subtle rhythms that flow through rock and soil, through air currents and magnetic fields. Imagine your skin could detect the faintest changes in atmospheric pressure, or your ears could pick up sound frequencies so low they travel for hundreds of miles beneath your feet. What if your eyes could see the invisible dance of electromagnetic fields that shimmer around our planet like an aurora made of pure energy? For most of us, this seems like fantasy, like something from a dream where the ordinary rules don't apply. But as you settle deeper into comfort tonight, let your mind wander to a profound truth. There are creatures all around us who live in exactly this heightened world every single day. They inhabit a reality where subtle signals cascade through the environment like whispered messages, where the Earth itself becomes a vast communication network, and where tomorrow's storms announce themselves in languages older than human speech. Think of the last time you felt a change coming in the weather. Perhaps your joints ached slightly before a thunderstorm, or the air felt heavy and electric in a way that made you glance toward the horizon. Now multiply that sensitivity by 1,000, by 10,000, and you begin to approach the sensory world that countless animals navigate with quiet grace. They are living instruments, finely tuned to detect the Earth's most subtle moods and movements. In the soft darkness of your room tonight, consider the house cat who suddenly becomes restless hours before an earthquake that humans won't feel for another day. Picture the horses in distant fields who begin pacing nervously when a tsunami is still forming far out at sea. Envision the dogs who refuse to walk down certain streets because they sense gas leaking from pipes buried deep underground, or the birds who change their migration routes to avoid volcanic ash clouds that haven't even formed yet. These aren't isolated incidents or mere coincidences floating in our imagination. They are glimpses into a world where survival has shaped senses so acute, so perfectly calibrated to environmental changes, that these creatures become living early warning systems. They are nature's own gentle prophets, reading the Earth's diary of subtle signs and responding with behaviors that seem almost magical to our limited human perception. What if I told you that throughout history, humans have noticed these patterns? That ancient civilizations built their understanding of natural disasters partly on the wisdom of watching animals? The ancient Greeks noticed that rats fled the city of Hellas days before a devastating earthquake in 373 BCE. Chinese earthquake monitors have long included animal behavior in their prediction systems, noting that horses become agitated chickens, refuse to enter their coops, and cats carry their kittens to higher ground days before the earth trembles. But here's where the story becomes even more wondrous. Modern science has begun to unlock the mechanisms behind these ancient observations. We're discovering that what once seemed like mystical animal intuition is actually a sophisticated array of biological sensors, each species equipped with different tools for reading the Earth's vital signs. Some animals detect the subtle electromagnetic changes that precede seismic activity. Others feel minute changes in air pressure that announce approaching storms. Still others pick up on infrasound, those deep, low-frequency rumbles that travel vast distances through rock and air, carrying news of distant disturbances, like messages in a bottle, washing up on the shores of animal consciousness. As you breathe slowly and let your mind drift tonight, imagine joining this ancient network of awareness. Picture yourself as part of a vast, interconnected web of sensitivity that spans species and continents. In this peaceful vision, every creature becomes a note in a gentle symphony of environmental awareness, each contributing their unique sensitivity to create a harmonious understanding of the Earth's rhythms and changes. Asterisk, asterisk. Let us drift now into the gentle realm of scientific understanding, where wonder and knowledge intertwine like morning mist rising from a quiet lake. The mechanisms behind animal disaster prediction are as elegant as they are fascinating, each one a testament to millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning that has created living instruments more sensitive than any technology we've yet devised. Consider, first, the remarkable world of seismic sensitivity, the ability to feel the Earth's hidden movements. When tectonic plates shift deep beneath the surface, they create what scientists call P waves or primary waves. These are the fastest moving seismic waves racing through rock and soil at speeds of up to 4 miles per second. They arrive well before the more destructive S waves and surface waves that cause the shaking we humans finally notice. But many animals, blessed with extraordinary sensitivity, can detect these whisper-quiet P waves and respond with behaviors that seem to predict the future. Dogs and cats, for instance, have specialized cells in their inner ears that can detect vibrations so subtle they're measured in nanometers, distances smaller than the wavelength of visible light. When these tiny tremors reach their sensitive ears, transmitted through their paws from the ground beneath, their nervous systems interpret this as a signal of impending danger. This is why you might see a dog suddenly pace restlessly, or a cat hide in an unusual place hours before an earthquake that humans won't feel until the more powerful waves arrive. But the story grows even more beautiful when we consider electromagnetic sensitivity. The Earth itself is surrounded by a vast magnetic field, a protective bubble that shields us from harmful solar radiation. This magnetic field is constantly fluctuating in subtle ways, and before major geological events, these fluctuations can intensify or shift in patterns that some animals have evolved to perceive. Birds, in particular, possess microscopic crystals of magnetite in their beaks and inner ears, tiny biological compasses that help them navigate during migration, and also make them exquisitely sensitive to magnetic field changes. Marine animals like dolphins and whales live in an even more remarkable sensory world. Sound travels much more efficiently through water than through air, and these creatures have evolved echolocation abilities that turn the ocean into a vast three-dimensional map of sound. They can detect the low-frequency rumbles that precede underwater earthquakes or volcanic activity, sounds so deep and powerful that they travel across entire ocean basins like invisible messengers, carrying news of distant disturbances. Perhaps most fascinating of all is the realm of atmospheric sensitivity. Many animals can detect minute changes in barometric pressure, the weight of the atmosphere pressing down upon the Earth, before major weather events like hurricanes or severe thunderstorms. Atmospheric pressure begins to drop in patterns that sensitive animals can perceive long before human instruments register significant changes. Horses become restless, birds alter their flight patterns, and even insects modify their behavior in response to these atmospheric whispers. The elegance of these systems lies not just in their individual sophistication, but in how they work together to create a comprehensive early warning network. Nature has equipped different species with different sensitivities, like instruments in an orchestra, each contributing their unique capabilities to a symphony of environmental awareness that encompasses the full spectrum of potential natural disasters. In the soft shadows of history, there lived a man whose gentle curiosity would change how we understand the secret language between animals and the earth itself. His name was Tsuneji Rikitake, and in the quiet laboratories of Japan, during the 1960s, he began to notice something extraordinary that others had overlooked for centuries. Picture, if you will, the serene Japanese countryside of that era, where ancient traditions of observing nature still flowed like quiet streams through daily life. Farmers had long whispered stories, passed down through generations, tales of how their livestock would refuse to enter barns before earthquakes, how the family dog would howl through the night when the earth was preparing to tremble, how even the goldfish in their peaceful ponds would swim in frantic circles hours before disaster struck. Dr. Rikitake, with the patient heart of a true scientist, began to collect these stories like precious pearls, stringing them together into patterns that revealed something profound. He traveled from village to village, sitting with elderly farmers over cups of warm tea, listening to their weathered voices share observations that their families had made for hundreds of years. What emerged was not folklore, but a tapestry of consistent, repeated behaviors that seemed to connect the animal world to the earth's hidden rhythms. One story particularly captured his imagination, a tale of the Haixing earthquake prediction of 1975. In the months leading up to this devastating event in northeastern China, something remarkable happened that saved thousands of lives. The local animals began to behave in ways that seemed almost coordinated, as if they were all receiving the same urgent message from the earth itself. Horses refused to enter their stables, pacing restlessly in the fields under winter skies. Chickens abandoned their coops, preferring to roost in trees despite the cold. Dogs howled in harmonious choruses that echoed across the frozen landscape. Even hibernating snakes emerged from their winter sleep, slithering across snow-covered ground, behavior so unusual that villagers stood watching in quiet amazement. The most touching part of this story is how the local officials, rather than dismissing these signs, chose to listen to both the animals and the people who understood their language. They issued evacuation orders based partly on these behavioral changes, and when the earthquake finally struck with devastating force, entire cities had been emptied. The death toll, which could have been catastrophic, was reduced to fewer than 2,000 people, a miraculous outcome that demonstrated the profound wisdom hidden in the ancient partnership between humans and animals. Dr. Rikitake documented these events with the reverence of someone who understood he was witnessing something sacred. He realized that modern science had much to learn from this ancient knowledge, and his gentle persistence helped bridge the gap between traditional observation and contemporary understanding. His work opened doors for other researchers to explore the scientific mechanisms behind these timeless patterns. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of his legacy is how it reminds us that true wisdom often comes from simply paying attention to the world around us with an open heart and a quiet mind. The farmers who noticed their animals' strange behaviors weren't conducting formal experiments. They were simply living in close harmony with the natural world, observing its rhythms with the kind of patient attention that comes from generations of gentle coexistence. As you settle deeper into rest tonight, imagine yourself in one of those peaceful villages where the boundary between human intuition and animal wisdom becomes beautifully blurred. Picture the profound trust it took for officials to heed these subtle warnings, and the countless lives saved by honoring the ancient dialogue between species. Let us embark now on a gentle voyage into the microscopic realms where the magic of animal sensitivity truly begins, a journey so small we must shrink our awareness to explore the cellular landscapes where Earth's whispers first touch the consciousness of our fellow creatures. Close your eyes and imagine yourself floating, smaller than a grain of sand, into the inner sanctuaries, where biology meets the planet's hidden signals. We begin our peaceful exploration within the delicate structures of a bird's beak, where clusters of specialized cells called magnetoreceptors rest like tiny sleeping compasses. These remarkable cells contain crystals of magnetite, the same mineral that forms natural magnets, arranged in precise geometric patterns that would make a master jeweler weep with admiration. Each crystal is so perfectly positioned that together they create a biological instrument capable of detecting magnetic field variations as subtle as the flutter of a butterfly's wing. Drift now deeper into this microscopic wonderland, where individual proteins twist and dance in response to magnetic fields. These proteins, called cryptochrons, exist in the bird's eyes and work like molecular light switches, their shape changing ever so slightly when magnetic fields fluctuate. This creates cascades of chemical reactions that flow like gentle streams through the bird's nervous system, translating the Earth's magnetic moods into signals the brain can understand and act upon. Let your awareness float now to the inner ear of a sleeping dog, where hair cells rest in fluid-filled chambers like kelp swaying in an underwater garden. These cells are so exquisitely sensitive that they can detect ground vibrations, measured in billionths of a meter, movements so tiny they exist at the very threshold between the mechanical and molecular worlds. When pi waves from distant earthquakes whisper through the Earth's crust, these cellular sensors translate those geological murmurs into neural symphonies that flow along nerve pathways toward the brain's ancient alarm centers that our journey carries. US next into the vast sensory universe of a whale's skull, where specialized organs called melons focus sound waves like biological sonar dishes. Here, in chambers filled with specialized oils that can change density at will, these magnificent creatures create acoustic maps of their underwater worlds so detailed they can distinguish between different types of ocean floor sediment from miles away. When underwater volcanic activity sends its low-frequency rumbles across the ocean basins, these same organs detect the approaching geological conversations like gentle thunder rolling beneath the waves. But perhaps the most wondrous destination in our cellular voyage is the lateral line system of fish, a network of microscopic sensors that runs along their bodies like a string of pearls beneath the skin. These sensors, called neuromasts, detect the tiniest changes in water pressure and movement, creating a three-dimensional map of water flow that extends far beyond the fish's physical body. This biological radar is so sensitive that fish can feel the wake of other swimming creatures from great distances and can detect the pressure waves that precede underwater earthquakes hours before the seafloor actually moves. Each of these microscopic marvels represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, where survival pressured life to develop increasingly sophisticated ways of reading the Earth's vital signs. What emerges from our gentle exploration is a profound appreciation for the incredible complexity hidden within seemingly simple animal behaviors. When a horse becomes restless before an earthquake, we're witnessing the culmination of countless molecular conversations, cellular symphonies, and neural networks working in perfect harmony to translate environmental whispers into conscious awareness. As we drift back from our microscopic journey, returning to the comfortable scale of your quiet room, carry with you the wonder of knowing that right now, all around you, billions of these tiny biological instruments are quietly monitoring the Earth's pulse, creating an invisible network of environmental awareness that spans the globe like a gentle, living web of consciousness. In the gentle twilight between waking knowledge and dreamy revelation, let us explore some of nature's most quietly astonishing secrets, those whispered truths about animal sensitivity that even scientists are only beginning to understand. Like finding hidden rooms in a house you thought you knew completely. Did you know that elephants, those gentle giants who move through their world with such graceful wisdom, can detect rainfall from over 150 miles away? Their massive feet, which seem designed only for earthbound walking, are actually exquisitely sensitive seismic receivers. When distant thunderstorms create infrasound waves, sound frequencies so low they're below the range of human hearing, these vibrations travel through the ground like messages in a secret language that elephants have spoken for millions of years. The matriarch of the herd will lift her great foot, feeling these subsonic whispers through specialized sensors, and guide her family toward water sources that exist far beyond the horizon. Here's a wonder that might surprise you in the softest way. Honeybees, those tireless workers in their golden cities, become noticeably more agitated before thunderstorms, but not because they fear the rain. Their tiny bodies are incredibly sensitive to changes in electromagnetic fields, and as storm clouds build their electrical charges, the bees can feel the invisible tension growing in the air around their hives. Beekeepers have long noticed that their colonies buzz with a different frequency on the days before major weather events, as if the entire hive is humming a gentle warning song that speaks of atmospheric changes still hours away. In the quiet depths of the ocean, there swim creatures whose sensitivity to disaster borders on the mystical. Deep-sea fish called oarfish magnificent, ribbon-like beings that can grow to 30 feet in length, are rarely seen near the surface. But in the days before major underwater earthquakes, these mysterious creatures sometimes rise from their abyssal homes and beach themselves in shallow waters, as if delivering urgent messages from the deep. Japanese folklore calls them messengers from the sea god's palace, and modern science is beginning to understand that their appearances might indeed be prophetic, triggered by changes in deep ocean currents and pressure systems that precede seismic events. Perhaps most remarkable of all is the story of the common earthworm, those humble creatures who spend their lives in quiet underground meditation. Before major earthquakes, earthworms have been observed emerging from the soil in massive numbers, covering the ground like living carpets, despite having no apparent reason to leave their safe burrows. Scientists believe they're responding to minute electrical changes in the soil that precede seismic activity, changes so subtle that our most sophisticated instruments can barely detect them. Yet these simple creatures feel them clearly enough to abandon the security of their underground homes. Even domestic animals possess surprising prophetic abilities that extend far beyond earthquake prediction. Cats, those mysterious companions who seem to live partially in other dimensions, often refuse to enter buildings where gas leaks exist, even when the concentrations are far too low for humans to detect. Their sensitive olfactory systems can perceive parts per billion of certain gases, making them living sensors for environmental hazards. Many apartment building fires have been prevented by observant owners who notice their cats consistently avoiding certain areas of their homes. Here's a gentle secret from the world of marine mammals. Dolphins and whales sometimes mass strand themselves on beaches not due to confusion, but possibly because they're fleeing from underwater sounds or seismic activities that their sensitive echolocation systems interpret as threatening. Their acoustic world is so rich and detailed that they might be responding to environmental changes that won't affect coastal areas for days or even weeks. And in perhaps the most touching example of animal sensitivity, there are countless stories of pets who refuse to go on their usual walks along routes that will later be affected by sinkholes, landslides, or flooding. Dogs who typically love their daily walks will plant their feet and refuse to move in certain directions, as if they can sense the structural instability of the earth beneath paths they've traveled safely for years. Their owners often report that these behavioral changes occur days or weeks before any visible signs of geological problems appear. As you rest tonight, let your mind drift through this gentle menagerie of natural prophets, each species contributing their unique gifts to the vast network of planetary awareness that surrounds us like an invisible embrace of ancient wisdom. Asterisk, asterisk, as we drift deeper into the soft mysteries of animal intuition, let us pause in the quiet space between knowledge and wonder, where scientific understanding meets something far more profound, the ancient relationship between all living things and the living planet that cradles us all. In this peaceful meditation, we discover that the ability of animals to predict disasters speaks to something much larger than mere survival mechanisms. It whispers of an interconnectedness so deep and beautiful that it touches the very essence of what it means to be alive on Earth. Consider for a moment the profound implications of what we've discovered together tonight. When a horse grows restless before an earthquake, when birds alter their migration paths to avoid volcanic ash clouds that haven't yet formed, when elephants guide their families toward distant rainfall, we're witnessing not just individual acts of environmental sensitivity, but evidence of a vast, living network of awareness that encompasses the entire planet. Each creature becomes a living node in this network, contributing their unique perceptions to a collective understanding that spans species, continents, and even geological time. This network operates on principles that challenge our human tendency to see ourselves as separate from nature. In our modern world, we often think of disasters as external events that happen to us, unexpected disruptions that interrupt the orderly flow of our daily lives. But through the gentle lens of animal behavior, we begin to see these events differently, not as sudden catastrophes, but as part of the Earth's natural rhythms, conversations in a geological language that has been speaking for billions of years. Animals, in their quiet wisdom, remain fluent in this ancient dialogue, while we humans have largely forgotten how to listen. There's something deeply humbling about recognizing that creatures we often consider lesser than ourselves possess sensory abilities that dwarf our own sophisticated technologies. Our most advanced earthquake detection systems pale in comparison to the sensitivity of a dog's inner ear. Our weather satellites cannot match the atmospheric awareness of a migrating bird. Our tsunami warning networks operate more slowly than the coastal evacuation behaviors of certain marine mammals. In acknowledging these truths, we're invited to reconsider our relationship with the animal world, not as our subjects or resources, but as our teachers and partners in understanding the living systems that sustain us all. This partnership between human observation and animal sensitivity reveals itself beautifully in cultures that have maintained close connections to the natural world. Indigenous communities around the globe have long integrated animal behavior into their understanding of environmental patterns, recognizing that survival depends not on dominating nature, but on learning to read its subtle signs and respond with appropriate respect. Their traditional knowledge systems treat animals as equal participants in the ongoing conversation about how to live in harmony with natural forces. Perhaps most poetically, the phenomenon of animal disaster prediction reminds us that the Earth itself might be understood as a living organism with its own forms of communication and consciousness that operate on scales both vast and intimate. When we witness animals responding to geological events before they occur, we're seeing evidence of this planetary consciousness expressing itself through the nervous systems of countless creatures who serve as its sensory organs. Each species becomes a specialized sense organ for the Earth, detecting different aspects of its ever-changing moods and conditions. This perspective invites us to see disasters not as random events, but as the Earth's way of maintaining its dynamic balance. Volcanic eruptions that release internal pressures, earthquakes that relieve tectonic stress, storms that redistribute energy across atmospheric systems. Animals, in their sensitivity to these processes, become intermediaries between the planet's needs and our human understanding. offering us glimpses into the deeper rhythms that govern our world. In this gentle light, our relationship with animals transforms from one of ownership or utility to one of mutual respect and learning. They become our guides in remembering how to live as conscious participants in the Earth's ongoing story, rather than as isolated observers of it. In the soft embrace of deepening night, let us explore how the ancient wisdom of animal disaster prediction invites us to reconsider time itself, not as the rigid, linear progression measured by our clocks and calendars, but as something far more fluid and layered, like the gentle lapping of waves against a moonlit shore, where past, present, and future blend in eternal rhythms. When we witness animals responding to events that haven't yet occurred in human time, we're glimpsing a different relationship with temporality altogether. These creatures seem to live partially in tomorrow, their sensitive bodies receiving tomorrow's news today through channels we're only beginning to understand. A dog's restless pacing isn't just anxiety, it's a form of temporal translation, converting future geological events into present behavioral expressions. The bird that changes its migration route isn't being cautious. It's navigating through time as much as through space, steering clear of atmospheric conditions that exist more in potential than in current reality. This expanded sense of temporal awareness suggests that consciousness itself might be far more distributed through time than we typically imagine. We humans tend to experience ourselves as point-conscious beings, aware primarily of this immediate moment, with memories of yesterday and expectations of tomorrow. But perhaps animal consciousness operates more like a gentle river flowing across broader temporal landscapes, naturally encompassing what we might call past and future as part of a more continuous present experience. Consider the profound implications of this for our understanding of intuition and instinct. What we often dismiss as mere animal instinct might actually be a sophisticated form of temporal sensitivity, the ability to feel the currents of time itself, to sense the approaching convergence of conditions that will soon manifest as measurable events. When viewed this way, animal behavior becomes a form of prophecy, not in any mystical sense, but as a natural expression of consciousness that remains attuned to the deeper rhythms of existence. This temporal sensitivity extends beyond individual animals to entire ecosystems. Before major environmental changes, we often observe coordinated shifts in behavior across multiple species, not because they're communicating with each other directly, but because they're all responding to the same subtle temporal currents flowing beneath the surface of ordinary experience. Forests seem to prepare for storms. Wetlands adjust their biological rhythms before droughts, and coastal ecosystems shift their patterns before sea level changes that won't be measurable for months or years. In recognizing these patterns, we begin to understand that what we call disaster prediction might be better understood as temporal literacy, the ability to read the subtle signs that reveal how present conditions are already pregnant with future possibilities. Animals haven't developed this sensitivity to predict disasters. Rather, they've evolved to remain constantly aware of the temporal flows that govern all natural systems. And what we perceive as disaster prediction is simply their natural response to sensing these flows approaching crisis points. This perspective invites us to reconsider our own relationship with time and change. In our fast-paced modern lives, we often feel surprised by change, caught off guard by events that seem to come from nowhere. But perhaps we've simply lost touch with our own capacity for temporal sensitivity, our ability to feel the slow buildup of conditions that precede major transitions. Indigenous wisdom traditions often speak of this kind of temporal awareness, describing it as the ability to sense the wind before the wind, the subtle stirrings that announce larger changes still forming in the invisible realms of possibility. You rest in the gentle darkness tonight. Imagine yourself developing the same kind of temporal sensitivity, not to predict disasters, but to live more gracefully within the flowing rhythms of change that govern all existence. Picture yourself becoming more like our animal teachers, naturally attuned to the subtle currents of transformation that are always flowing beneath the surface of apparent stability, carrying us all toward futures that are already beginning to whisper their approach through the present moment. Asterisk, asterisk, as we float deeper into the gentle currents of understanding. Let us explore how the remarkable sensitivity of animals to environmental change reflects something profound about the nature of healing and wholeness, both for individual beings and for the living systems that connect us all. In the soft light of this awareness, we begin to see that the ability to sense approaching changes isn't just about survival. It's about maintaining harmony with the larger rhythms of life itself. When we observe animals responding to environmental shifts with such exquisite sensitivity, we're witnessing a form of biological wisdom that modern medicine and psychology are only beginning to appreciate. These creatures demonstrate what we might call embodied awareness, a state of being where the body itself becomes a sophisticated instrument of perception, constantly monitoring and responding to subtle changes in the environment. Their nervous systems remain in constant, gentle dialogue with their surroundings, creating feedback loops of sensitivity that keep them aligned with the natural world's ever-changing conditions. This embodied awareness offers profound lessons for our own journey toward wholeness and well-being. In our modern lives, we often live primarily in our thinking minds, disconnected from the subtle intelligence of our own bodies and the environmental signals they're constantly receiving. We rely on external instruments and technologies to tell us about weather changes, air quality, electromagnetic fields, and other environmental factors that our own biological systems are actually quite capable of detecting, if only we knew how. To listen, the animals who predict disasters aren't using some mysterious, supernatural ability. They're simply maintaining the kind of intimate connection with their bodies and environment that represents the natural state of conscious beings. Their sensitivity reminds us that healing, both personal and planetary, might be less about acquiring new abilities and more about remembering and rekindling sensitivities we've temporarily forgotten how to access. Consider how this understanding might transform our approach to stress, anxiety, and what we often call unexplained physical symptoms. Many people report feeling inexplicably restless or anxious before major weather changes, or experience headaches before earthquakes, or feel emotionally unsettled before environmental disasters occur in their region. Rather than dismissing these experiences as coincidence or psychosomatic symptoms, we might begin to recognize them as evidence of our own retained capacity for environmental sensitivity, our body's attempts to communicate information about subtle changes in our surroundings. This perspective suggests that true health might involve not just the absence of disease, but the restoration of our natural sensitivity to the larger systems of which we're part. Indigenous healing traditions have long understood this, recognizing that individual wellness cannot be separated from the health of the community and the environment. When we're properly attuned to our surroundings, we naturally make choices that support not just our own well-being, but the well-being of the larger living systems that sustain us. The animals who sense disasters approaching are demonstrating what we might call ecological intelligence, the ability to perceive individual events within the context of larger patterns and systems. They understand intuitively that their personal safety and the health of their environment are inseparably connected. When they respond to environmental changes, they're not just protecting themselves. They're participating in the larger intelligence of their ecosystems, contributing to the collective wisdom that helps entire communities of living beings navigate change together. This ecological intelligence invites us to expand our own definition of wisdom beyond individual knowledge, to include our capacity for sensing and responding appropriately to the larger patterns of change that affect all life. True wisdom, in this view, becomes less about what we know intellectually and more about how skillfully we can attune ourselves to the subtle currents of change that are always flowing through the living world, carrying both challenges and opportunities for growth and transformation. As you settle into deeper rest tonight, imagine your own body and mind naturally returning to this state of gentle, embodied awareness, not as something you need to achieve, but as something you can simply allow to resurface, like a natural spring of sensitivity that has always been flowing quietly beneath the surface of your everyday consciousness. In the tender silence that surrounds us now, let us drift toward understanding how the extraordinary sensitivity of animals to environmental change speaks to the deepest mysteries of love and connection, not romantic love, but the fundamental force that weaves all living beings into the magnificent tapestry of existence. When we truly comprehend what these creatures are showing us, we discover that their ability to predict disasters is actually an expression of the most profound love imaginable, the love that chooses to remain forever connected, forever responsive, forever present to the needs of the whole. Imagine a mother elephant, her massive form silhouetted against an African sunset, suddenly lifting her great foot to feel vibrations traveling through the earth from storms still 150 miles away. In that moment of exquisite attention, she embodies a form of love that transcends individual concern. Her sensitivity serves not just her own survival, but the well-being of her entire herd, the calves who depend on her wisdom, the adolescents learning to navigate their world, the other mothers who trust her guidance. Her environmental awareness becomes an act of devotion that ripples outward in circles of protection and care. This is the love that chooses to remain awake when it would be easier to sleep, to stay sensitive when it would be more comfortable, to become numb, to maintain awareness of subtle changes when it would be simpler to ignore them. It's the love that says, I will feel what the earth is feeling. I will listen to what the sky is whispering. I will remain present to the signals that others cannot perceive, because my sensitivity serves something larger than my individual comfort. When we witness birds altering their migration routes to avoid volcanic ash clouds that haven't yet formed, we're seeing this same love in action. These creatures carry within their small bodies the welfare of entire generations, not just their own offspring, but the continuation of their species' ancient relationship with seasonal rhythms, breeding grounds, and the invisible highways of magnetic fields that have guided their kind for millions of years. Their sensitivity to environmental change becomes an expression of their commitment to this larger story of which they are temporary but precious participants. This perspective transforms our understanding of what we call instinct. Rather than viewing animal behavior as mere programmed responses, we begin to see it as the embodiment of evolutionary love, millions of years of life learning to care for life, countless generations of beings refining their ability to sense and respond to the needs of the living systems that sustain them. Each animal's environmental sensitivity becomes a love letter written in the language of neural pathways and cellular responses, expressing the deepest truth about existence, that we are all interconnected, all responsible for each other's well-being, all part of a living whole that depends on our willingness to remain sensitive and responsive to its needs. The dogs who refuse to walk down streets where gas leaks invisibly threaten their human companions, the cats who guide their families away from unstable buildings, the horses who become restless before earthquakes that could harm the farmers who care for them. All of these behaviors reveal the same fundamental truth. Love, at its deepest level, is not a feeling but a way of being in the world, a commitment to remaining present, aware, and responsive to the welfare of the whole. This understanding invites us to reconsider our own capacity for love and service. What would it mean for us to cultivate this same kind of sensitive responsiveness to the needs of our communities, our ecosystems, our planet? How might we develop our own ability to sense subtle changes in the emotional and social environments around us, responding with the same kind of protective care that animals show when they detect approaching environmental dangers? Perhaps true spiritual development isn't about transcending our animal nature, but about remembering and refining the qualities that our animal teachers demonstrate so beautifully. The willingness to stay present to subtle signals, the courage to respond to perceived dangers, even when others can't yet see them, the love that chooses awareness over comfort, sensitivity over numbness, connection over isolation. As you rest in the gentle embrace of night, allow yourself to feel held by this same vast network of caring awareness that connects all living beings, knowing that you too are both protected by and capable of contributing to this ancient web of love that expresses itself through countless forms of attention, sensitivity, and responsive care. In these final moments of our gentle journey together, let us rest in the profound peace that comes from understanding our place in the vast symphony of awareness that surrounds and includes us all. As we've discovered tonight, the ability of animals to predict disasters reveals something far more beautiful than mere survival mechanisms. It shows us that consciousness itself might be distributed throughout the living world in ways that transcend the boundaries of individual bodies and minds, creating a planetary nervous system of exquisite sensitivity and care. Picture yourself now as part of this magnificent web of awareness, where your own consciousness becomes one note in an endless song of environmental sensitivity that has been playing since life first emerged on Earth. In this gentle vision, you are neither separate from nature nor diminished by comparison to the remarkable abilities of other creatures. Instead, you are a unique and precious participant in the same cosmic conversation, equipped with your own special forms of sensitivity and awareness that contribute something irreplaceable to the larger harmony, the story we've shared tonight. Whispers of a future where humanity might remember how to participate more consciously in this ancient network of planetary awareness. Imagine communities that learn to read the subtle signs of environmental change, not through technology alone, but through the recovered wisdom of paying attention to the behavioral patterns of our animal neighbors. Picture schools where children learn to interpret the early warnings encoded in the restlessness of local wildlife, developing both scientific understanding and intuitive sensitivity to the Earth's changing moods. In this future, the artificial separation between human intelligence and animal wisdom dissolves into something far more integrated and beautiful. We begin to see that our technologies and their biological sensitivities are not competing systems, but complementary aspects of a larger intelligence that emerges when different forms of awareness work together in harmony. Our satellites and sensors provide one kind of information. The behavioral changes in local animal populations provide another. Together, they create a more complete picture of our planet's health and needs than either could provide alone. This integration points toward a profound healing, not just of our relationship with the natural world, but of our understanding of consciousness itself. We begin to recognize that awareness is not something that belongs exclusively to humans, locked away in individual brains, but rather a fundamental property of life that expresses itself differently through each species, each ecosystem, each level of organization, from the cellular to the planetary. The animals who predict disasters are showing us that consciousness naturally tends toward connection, naturally develops sensitivity to the larger systems of which it's part, naturally evolves toward greater capacity for protective awareness and responsive care. They demonstrate that intelligence, at its finest, is not about domination or control, but about learning to participate skillfully in the ongoing conversation between all forms of life and the living planet that sustains us all. As you prepare to release yourself into the healing embrace of sleep, carry with you this gentle knowing that you are held within the same vast network of caring awareness that guides migrating birds away from danger, that awakens dogs to underground tremors, that enables elephants to sense distant rainfall. Your dreams tonight become part of this same planetary consciousness, your rest contributing to the same web of sensitivity and care that has protected and guided life on Earth for countless millions of years. In sleeping, you join the great dreaming of the world itself, that ongoing process by which consciousness learns to sense change, respond to danger, and guide all beings towards safety and well-being. Your individual awareness merges gently with the larger awareness that moves through every creature, every ecosystem, every level of life's magnificent organization, creating together a symphony of sensitivity so beautiful and complex that it can only be called love made manifest in countless forms of protective attention. Rest now in this knowing, this belonging, this gentle participation in the ancient conversation between consciousness and cosmos that continues even as you sleep. Asterisk, asterisk. And so, dear gentle listener, we come to the peaceful close of our quiet journey together through the remarkable world of animal wisdom and environmental sensitivity. Like the last soft notes of a lullaby fading into the embrace of night, let us gather the gentle threads of understanding we've woven together and allow them to settle like morning dew into the quiet spaces of your resting mind. Tonight, we've discovered that all around us, in every moment, countless creatures are participating in an ancient conversation with the Earth itself, reading signals so subtle they exist at the very threshold of perception, responding to changes so gradual they unfold across time frames that dwarf our human sense of urgency. We've learned that what we call disaster prediction is really a form of planetary love made manifest through millions of years of evolutionary refinement, each species contributing their unique gifts to a vast network of protective awareness that encompasses the entire living world. We've walked together through meadows of understanding where dogs become living seismographs, where birds navigate invisible highways of magnetic sensitivity, where elephants commune with distant thunderstorms, through the gentle vibrations traveling beneath their feet. We've floated through the microscopic realms where individual cells translate environmental whispers into neural symphonies. And we've soared through the philosophical heights where animal sensitivity reveals profound truths about consciousness, time, connection, and love. In sharing these quiet revelations, we've remembered that we too are part of this magnificent web of awareness, not separate from nature, but woven seamlessly into its fabric of sensitivity and care. The same forces that guide animals away from danger flow through our own bodies and consciousness, waiting patiently for us to remember how to listen, how to trust, how to respond with the same kind of gentle wisdom that has protected and guided life on Earth for countless eons. As you settle more deeply into the soft cocoon of your bed tonight, let your breathing naturally slow and deepen, like waves gently lapping against a moonlit shore. Feel your body releasing the small tensions of the day, allowing each muscle to soften and relax as you remember that you are held safely within the same vast network of caring awareness that watches over sleeping birds, resting whales, and dreaming elephants across the world. Picture yourself as part of this gentle communion of creatures, all resting together under the same starlit sky, all participating in the same quiet conversation between consciousness and cosmos. Your dreams tonight will join the great dreaming of the world itself, where individual awareness merges with the larger intelligence that moves through every level of life's magnificent organization. Let the soft knowledge of your belonging settle into your bones like warm honey, sweetening your rest with the profound peace that comes from knowing your place in the ancient story of life, caring for life. You are not alone in this vast universe. You are intimately connected to every creature who has ever felt the Earth's subtle tremors, every bird who has navigated by invisible magnetic highways, every being who has chosen sensitivity over numbness, awareness over sleep, love over fear. In the gentle darkness that surrounds you now, Feel yourself cradled by the same tenderness that moves mother elephants to guide their herds toward distant water, that inspires dogs to wake their sleeping families when danger approaches. Unseen, it enables countless creatures to sense tomorrow's weather in today's atmospheric whispers. This is the love that never sleeps, the awareness that never stops watching, the ancient intelligence that has been protecting and guiding life since the very beginning. As your consciousness naturally releases itself into the healing mystery of sleep, know that you are contributing your own unique note to this endless song of planetary awareness. Your rest becomes part of the same vast breathing that moves through forests and oceans. Your dreams join the eternal conversation between all forms of consciousness and the living cosmos that dreams us all into being. Thank you for sharing this gentle journey with me tonight. Thank you for your willingness to listen, to wonder, to allow these quiet truths to settle into the peaceful spaces of your heart. Wherever you are in this beautiful world, I hope you're feeling the profound sense of belonging and connection that flows naturally from understanding your place in the magnificent web of life. May your sleep be deep and restorative, filled with dreams that honor the ancient wisdom flowing through your own consciousness. May you wake tomorrow with renewed appreciation for the subtle signals that surround you always, and with greater trust in your own capacity to participate consciously in the ongoing conversation between all life and the living planet we call home. Wherever you are tonight, I hope you're resting well. May your dreams be peaceful, your sleep be gentle, and your mind be completely at ease. Good night, dear friend. Good night.